So this is the 2240 hours GMT edition of the Baby Angel Geronimo editions of KhoodeelaarTV Television Channel, Part B, on Monday, the 6th of February 2023. Now, the main discussion about the British media, the main discussion about the British media is about the absence of morality. Absence of morality, absence of ethics, and absence of fairness. For example, today's papers, Monday's papers or Monday's kind of news headings, main news headings include the subject of Gary Glitter, whose real name is Paul Gadd, Gadd, and the police have reported from was it Wiltshire or Hampshire, one of the places where he has been staying after he was released from prison following serving half of the 16 years sentence that he was given. Now, Paul Gadd was, of course, sent to prison for sex crimes, including children. It's 3 girls. Now, if you look at the coverage of the 16-year-old who is a child, 16-year-old Harry Windsor being treated to underage sex by the 19-year-old Sasha Walpole, you can see that Harry was a child and the 19-year-old Sasha Walpole was not far from being a child herself. So the description, the phrase older woman that has been reported in coverage of the incident as recounted in the book, named in Harry's kind of name. Harry didn't write the book. A team of people wrote that book. Harry could not write that book ever. Harry could speak and take part in discussions, but he could not write a book. In any case, that book is too tidy, even the inaccuracies and so on still make it tidier than what Harry would do if he were to sit down and write it, and he would not write it in a year. Now, here is the son of Monday. Here is the son of Sunday. The son of Monday is somewhere nearby. I'll come to that one, yes. The son on Sunday, which was yesterday, it bragged. The heading bragged, "I took Harry's virginity." Now, that is the front page of the Sun on Sunday. And the following day, which is today, the Sun, weekday Sun, is a follow-up. And it says, "Yeah, Dad, I had Harry in a field." Now, I don't know what, they actually do when they talk to their children and their parents and the families, etc., etc. But I personally would not. I cannot remember Whatever the details of family relations, I never can remember any discussion about sex at any stage in the family conversation. So, how is it that this woman, who is now being described as 40-year-old, is telling, not telling, boasting to her father that she had Harry? It's like it's a conquest. She had Harry in a field. No sign of her remotely feeling ashamed, embarrassed. She thinks it's a big achievement. And none of the people who have been allegedly demonstrating against Gary Glitter, Paul Gad, appear to be around anywhere to even make the point that she was a pedophile and that Harry was a child, 16-year-old. Now, whoever is writing the book or has written the book, the so-called Harry book, obviously they were concentrating on the worldwide heading, which is what the description about that reference is saying. So the more sordid the episodes, the more copies will be sold and the more income for the publishers. It is them that make a big capital out of the so-called book. It's not an intellectual book. It's not an ethical book at all. And it is not really breaking any mold, except the mold is of making money and getting publicity. It is not going to be really playing any part, this kind of so-called disclosures, in exposing the truth about the British monarchy. Contrary to what Harry reportedly has been kind of saying about, well, suggesting, because even if he suggests that there are racist elements within the royal family, British Windsor royal family, he would not be talking about racism that affects ordinary people. Harry would be talking about Meghan Markle. And there he would stop, because the rest of Harry's biography, not the ones written in a book, but in accounts that have been published in the years gone by, let's say the last 20 years, Harry has behaved as a racist himself. And he is not regretting the fact that he has been a racist, that he has murdered. We don't know who these people were that he murdered, but he did murder, according to his account, 20 Afghans. What were these Afghans? What ages were they? And in what situation were they in when he murdered them? So these are the questions that we shall be, if you like, focusing on. There is no need for a lengthy discussion about these. The Sasha Walpole, on the other hand, on the one hand and Harry, and Paul Gadd being targeted for vicious attacks, even when he's in a kind of post prison, supposedly semi secure place. What is the difference between Gary Glitter's sex crimes and the sex crimes that Sasha Walpole is bragging about? I don't think, objectively speaking, there is any difference, except that Walpole is not just an ordinary member of the population. Walpole herself has worked for Brian, King Brian. So it's all in the family. And the sexual abuse that has gone on in that family, one of the main things that Harry has against Camilla is the fact that she existed at all. As far as Harry is concerned, his mom's marriage was destroyed by Camilla, which eventually destroyed her life. And there is no recognition. There is no recognition in the media about any morality or ethics at all. And the Sun is bragging itself. I mean, the Sun is world exclusive. It is capitalizing on the pedophile Sasha Walpole having sex with the child Harry Windsor. And this is a continuing second day of the world exclusive. So instead of going into the actual copy, reading the copy, I shall just leave it there as mention as part of the reference. Now, going back to the piece by Rod Liddell in the Sunday Times yesterday, which is headed, "No one wants to see a young mum without gas, but I'm not sure I want to pay her bill." Now, who the fuck does this stinking, corrupt Rod Liddell think he is? Who would ever want him to pay anyone's bill? The fucking parasite. But what the parasite is doing there under the protection of dirty digger Rupert Murdoch is that he is keeping alive the neo-Nazi agenda, the eugenics agenda that I've talked about, and Susie Boniface has discussed at some length in her piece. So we'll leave it there just as a reference, and then I'll go back to the Evening Standard, whatever remains of the Evening Standard, and there is a significant shift, the strategic shift. Remember, Seitan Rushdie was not a writer doing a kind of series of books as a writer that got him in the news. Seitan Rushdie is and has been part of the agenda against the world's Muslim population. In other words, it's the crusade. Seitan Rushdie is an extension, is a continuation of the crusade. Read up on the crusade and you will see that it's an attack on the Muslims that took place. Well, they began 1500 years ago, and that attack is continuing, which is why Melanie McDonough in the Evening Standard is over the moon praising Satan Rushdie's latest novel. Bravo, Salman, she says. Now, she is, despite pretensions, she is another jobbing, racist, anti Muslim, morality free parasite. She doesn't have any room, nor has anybody else in the whole of the Western media, either television, radio, or print. There is no room to even acknowledge the existence of the millions and millions of Muslims who are targeted to be and condemned to struggle in poverty and hunger and famine against the background of the world's biggest money wasters of Arabia, wasting money on anti-Muslim regimes, anti-Muslim kind of clubs, including, and this is sick making. I mean, when was the last time that the Arabian Muslims even knew the existence of the descendants of the slaves? Now they have now elevated Beyonce to the world record breaking level. Why? Because the Beyonce is not a black woman. She's a black kind of heritage, but she's part of the industry that actually profits and benefits from the exploitation of the world's poorest and the most deprived and the victims of racism. Beyonce is the diversity display. She is the diversity display they have been invented. Just look at the other side. And the other side is Memphis, Tennessee, where 5 black police beat a black young man to death for just being there. So these are the very serious moral issues that the Khoodeelaar campaign, world exclusive analysis, brings on the record. The baby angel Geronimo is the world's bestest witness to all the lies, all the corruption, all the criminality. And this is what we do, that everything that we include, directly, expressly, or by implication, is covered by the main banner agenda and narrative personified by the world's bested baby angel Geronimo. Baby angel Geronimo knows more than what we are able to broadcast because of time limitations and logistics, more about the evilness that is the United Kingdom state, the evilness that the United Kingdom Parliament, the evilness that the United Kingdom political system, and the evilness that is the UK DEFRA, and the UK judges, the judiciary. Baby angel Geronimo is the world's bestest, healthiest baby angel And baby angel Geronimo is the most innocent baby angel Geronimo in the whole world. He represents all the other innocent targets of the evilness called DEFRA and its similar, identical, comparable agencies. Now, in the Evening Standard, so called, we call it No Standard, it says Beyonce, the Grammys history maker. Fuck them. What are they doing? Heaping all these things on her. And what are the morons in Arabia doing? Heaping these millions and millions on her. She is a conduit. She is a conduit through which these various evilnesses are operating. And it is incredible, isn't it, that unlike the movement that apparently grew after the beating to death of the black man 3 years ago, this Nichols beating to death by police, 5 police, has not produced the Black Lives Matter. Why? I'll tell you why. Because, like Beyonce, here is Trevor Terrible P-Lips. Trevor Terrible P-Lips has got platforms on the Daily Mail side as well as the Times and the Sky News. And the heading in Monday's comment piece, byline to Trevor Terrible P-Lips, reads this: turn the volume down on colonial reckoning. What could he possibly be talking about? Of course, this criminal, mental slave, Satan Rushdie like, he is doing the bidding for the colonialists, for the racists. So the conclusion is that wherever there is a platform given in a racist crusader environment, culture, to somebody who should not be given a platform because the ordinary members of the community, that individual personally represents, are not only not given the same platform, their existence is not even recognized. So, what a stunning diversion. Beyonce, what are they kind of, what are they focusing on her for? What is it that they're selling her, as a lure for? The unprecedented, the extraordinary brutality inflicted on the victim of the 5 black-skinned police on the black man in Memphis, Tennessee, should have been the subject of this piece by Terrible P-Lips. Instead, he's saying that stop criticizing the colony or colonialism. He says, in the Caribbean, they like a laugh, especially at the expense of the old colonial master. And he said, how you mean the sun never set on the British Empire? True that, man. God know you. You can never trust an Englishman in the dark. Australians have their own, more direct version of anti colonial disparagement. Where can you hide your key so Pom can't find it? Under the soap. So this is not terrible Phillips telling the truth at all. Because like the congenital liar Boris Johnson, Trevor Terrible Phillips has no brains. It's full of dogmas, colonialist dogmas. There are so many dogmas carrying mental slaves given academic positions in British institutions, increasingly, and other positions. And what are they doing? They're not doing research into the corruption of empire. They're not doing objective investigation into the ramifications of the corruption of empire on the cultures that dominate the Caribbean countries and the states. And the corrupt culture that permeates and takes over the minds of these morons that murdered this innocent black man in Memphis, Tennessee. When a black man is murdered like that, I mean, where do you begin the narrative? Where do you begin the condemnation? The outrage, the shock, where? Who do you condemn? And who are you outraged by? And where does it come from? As I said before, who created Trevor Terrible Phillips? Because his biological brother, whom I know, Mike Phillips, he may have sympathies with his biological brother, Terrible Phillips. But one to one, Mike Phillips is nowhere near as reprehensibly servile and corrupt and criminal and deprived, kind of depraved as Trevor Terrible Phillips has been. And he's praising Laura Trevelyan's family, this fucking cunt, as role models for a better tomorrow. Fuck off. For every gesture by the family of the likes of Laura Trevelyan in the UK today, there are thousands of African and Asian people struggling against injustice. And there are millions of them in Africa and Asia struggling against injustice, sown there by empire, you fucking cunt. You shameless, disgraceful dogmas. When he conspired to put me on television as the first kind of person to appear on the launch issue edition of the Devil's Advocate that was broadcast by Channel 4 in 1992. Trevor Terrible Phillips, who had known me, would not dare come anywhere near me to talk about this. He gave this duck as Dirty How the dirty job. And I told Dirty How on the program itself that he was doing the dirty for the racists. And every single nephew Tom, niece Tom, whatever, that is given any platform by the racists and the colonialists, the internal colonialists, is morally empty. And so therefore what I am saying is that it is this moral emptiness that is to be blamed for the murderous evilness of those 5 policemen. And extrapolate that and apply that to the behavior of the ethnicity linked employees, place people in the United Kingdom. Those who are given platforms like the slave Trevor Terrible Phillips. This is why the so-called new generation, they don't see any moral example, no ethical example in the behavior of the likes of Trevor Terrible Phillips. So they had no example before them. So what do? They do the worst possible thing. For example, as this child Shamima Begum has reportedly said to this Josh Baker, she didn't feel Bengali and she didn't feel British, white either, that is. Where is that emptiness coming from? And the answer is that the emptiness was bound to be there. Emptiness was bound to be there when people from Africa and Asia came to the United Kingdom or the USA. This criminal says that tone down the colonial reckoning. You shitbag. People have come here because of colonialism, you cunt. So when people came to the corrupt motherland, people came because of the enforced connection, not just Windrush, cheap labor, and so on. But whenever there is a crisis, social crisis, economic crisis, democratic crisis, political crisis, in any part of the world where the so-called British colony prevailed, There is no way to anywhere else except to go to Britain. That is the conditioning, you fucking cunt. That is the conditioning. The local anti-imperialist, anti-colonialist cultures have been completely devalued, you cunt. And that is replicated in the UK. Look at the schools. What do the children born to Asian parents and African parents and Caribbean parents, what do they have as the role models? As I said, Shamima Begum is one example. So the entire collection, of the so-called leadership, placemen and placewomen, careerist cunts, either coming from the Caribbean background or the Asian background or the so-called Muslim background, this entire collection is to blame. And I say that, to simplify, I say that what Lutfur Rahman, the proven crook, has done by still maintaining complete, absolute, absurd and shameless silence about Shamima Begum, about Sharmina Begum, about the other two girls. What he has done is to show that he lacks capacity. He lacks moral capacity. He never had the moral capacity. No matter whether he lied 100 times or he lied 1,000 times to get to be the incumbent second time as the elected mayor at the expense of Tower Hamlets. So what do the people that aid and abet Lutfur Rahman and his like, they lack moral capacity as well. And this applies not just to Tower Hamlets, but it applies to Newham as well. It applies to Lewisham, it applies to Croydon. It applies to Lambeth, it applies to Haringey. It applies to Birmingham. And it applies to all the other local councils or metropolitan authorities. There is emptiness. So we have on the Times the main heading on the top, unions accused of risking lives with biggest ever NHS walkout. And the details of the severe consequences, impact on the people's lives and safety because of the NHS walkout and strikes are listed in all the main papers. And then the Times has got the main bigger sized letters: delusional trusts will cost votes, Tories fear. Now, as I said about Rishi Sunak over the claim in yesterday's Sunday Times that he is going to scrap the ECHR, I said that he will not do it in 1,000 years. He is an idiot. So what this society needs, and taking the situation of the world needs is the moral imperative. the moral accountability to be established, asserted. You can argue about the money, about the pay rise and so on, and the cost of living, which are absolutely central, but they are not all. There has to be a moral compass guiding these people, either whether trade unionists or government ministers or conservatives or Keir Starmer. Here is a piece on page 7 of the Times of Monday. About Dominic Raab. And the headline is Raab tried to get minister sacked in spat over article. Now, I cannot emphasize this strongly enough that the claim that Imran Khan in Pakistan has made in the last year, let's say 2022, saying words to the effect that the reason why Boris Johnson was discredited in Britain and discredited out of the office of Prime Minister was because there existed a thing called the rule of law. And I have said that Imran Khan could not be more wrong. Johnson didn't lose his position because there was in operation a rule of law at all. Johnson lost because in the Conservative Party and in the British politics, there are any number of chess tricks being played, outwitting one another, just to stay on top and just to stay in the game. That is what is happening with Liz Truss. And what Dominic Raab has done, according to this report by Matt Dutton, who is supposed to be the current political editor of the Times, Rishi Sunak was made aware of Dominic Raab's unacceptable behavior towards a fellow cabinet minister last summer. The Times has been told Raab allegedly tried to get Sir Robert Buckland sacked as Welsh Secretary in August after Buckland publicly criticized Raab's British Bill of Rights. Buckland had told Sunak about Raab's intimidating and unacceptable behavior at the time. Sources told this newspaper. However, a source close to Sunak denied that he was aware of threat. These claims are untrue. No allegations of threatening behavior against the then Welsh Secretary were raised with the MP for Richmond, Sunak. The source said. Raab told Buckland by phone not to go ahead with an article he was due to write for the Daily Telegraph, or he would report him to Downing Street for breaking the ministerial code on collective cabinet responsibility. Rabi is said to have told Buckland that he would have to resign or be sacked if he went ahead with the article. Buckland told the Friends at the time. In the article, Buckland said the winner of the Tory leadership contest, which involved Sunak, should reconsider Rab's bill, and warned that it risks sparking US-style rows over abortion law in Britain. An ally of Buckland told the Times he was very cross about it. The fact that he was prepared to report it to the Prime Minister and Cabinet Secretary shows the length he would go to make his point. Robert isn't a blushing flower. He's a tough politician. But Dominic's behavior was very odd, very punchy. It shows he will do whatever it takes to get his way, and to ensure his threats are carried out. It's very heavy-handed tactics. Now, I have read all of that because I want to say that Imran Khan is wrong. In this description, which is absolutely typical description of what goes on, it's tactics, chess game. It is not rule of law, because in the narrative, in the reported description, there is no reference to any code, any actual code, any rule of law, any due process, any court of law, any act of parliament. So this is the wasteland, the depravity land, the wasteland, the dark land, the evil land that we are in. And the evil land can be multiplied, duplicated to consider the situation in the USA. And you got this item about the London Metropolitan Police. At least one one item in here on the Times of today, page 11, says victims of rapist officer looking to sue Metropolitan Police. Now, is there any need to explain that? That shows that the police doesn't exist. Policing doesn't exist. That's what we have been saying exclusively, world exclusively saying for the last 4 years, that in Britain, policing doesn't exist. And then there is this item about energy firms misleading Ofgem. So where do you go? Everyone is lying. Everyone is cheating. The big energy firms are lying to the off jump. Now, is this individual is obviously a police, but is he from Pakistan or is he from India or is he from Bangladesh? He cannot be from anywhere else, really. Why? Because the name Anhar gives the game away. It's a fast name that is very much common in Bangladesh. Most certainly, it is used in Silot as well. So this may be a fast generation. He's the same age as Shamima Begum, age 23. And he's a stalker. So he's age 23 and he terrorized his girlfriend when their relationship started to fall apart. Can you believe it? Snare's book Crown Court was told that Hussein, a trainee barber, locked his girlfriend inside whenever he went out. He also posted intimate photos of the victim online and sent them to her family. Ironically, the prosecution lawyer is an Indian, Soita Chatalia, said that Hussein set fire to the victim's belongings in the street following an argument about a car tire. CCTV caught the moment he drove on the car several times to try and run her over. The woman escaped the relationship, but Hussein tracked her down. He hounded her with calls from a private number many times in a single minute and approximately 700 times a day. Judge Paul Goldspring told Hussein, "It's significant that such was the abuse that she was rehoused in a women's refuge, and you continue to harass her by parking outside and continue to call her." In a victim impact statement read out on her behalf, the woman told the court, "I keep reliving the moment I left my accommodation and he was parked up outside. Every time I leave home, that is what I think about. And it has left me in a perpetual state of fear. I feel intimidated. Once he comes out, what if he tries to make my life a living hell again, like he has done before?" This question is carved into my brain. The victim described Hussein as cocky and claimed that he said the police aren't going to do anything when she reported his behavior. Hussein was caught when detectives tracked his movements with software typically used to target drug dealing networks. This is the first time the Metropolitan Police has used cell site analysis suit to secure a conviction in a stalking case. Now, I don't know whether they will let him out, but it is not guaranteed that they won't let him out. Why? Because as the aunt of Zara Alina has said, her murderer was treated softly. He should never have been allowed to be out, and he was out. And he murdered her, Zara, within a week or less than a week. So, as I said, there is no moral compass, and nobody is actually in charge of the moral compass in this country at any level. We shall stop this one at this stage with the usual statement we make that we continue updating on and commenting on the other aspects and other issues that we would have done had we continued this edition. Now, this is 56 minutes, and this is being ended at 23:40 hours GMT on Monday, 6th of February 2023.